Next question. Should policymakers try to make tariffs a significant revenue source for government spending? The answer is no. Tariffs are essentially a tax on consumption and are hence more regressive than most current federal revenue sources. This means that with tariffs, people with lower incomes pay a larger share of their earnings. I want to repeat that. People with lower incomes pay a larger share of their earnings in taxes than high income people for the significant amount of revenue we need to raise in the coming years. So we should build on existing progressive revenue sources and not try and use tariffs. Trump has suggested that tax revenues from new tariffs could replace the federal income tax. This would require tariffs to reach historically high and large regressive shift in who finances the federal government, meaning the people who make the least money. In this scenario, the tax burden would shift from higher income households to low and moderate income households. Large, across the board tariffs of this magnitude would also have many negative economic side effects relative to income taxes. And it says in 2024, the federal government will collect estimated 2.5 trillion in individual income tax revenues. To raise this much revenue, the base of any tariff would have to be extremely broad, effectively universal, falling on all imports. If one starts with the implausible assumption that a universal tariff would not change U.S. demand for imports, the tariff rate would need to be 78%, and that 78% would raise the price of the goods or commodities up 78%. So to replace the individual income tax, it'd have to be 78%. And more realistically, if tariffs defer Americans from importing goods, then these taxes on imports would need to be significantly higher to replace income tax revenues. In fact, the most estimates of how sensitive U.S. purchases of imports are to their prices indicate tariffs literally could not replace even half of the federal income tax. And as it says in the next paragraph, this particular situation would cause damaging shift for U.S. families who would end up paying greater share of their incomes in taxes. And that's a terrible thing. So what Trump's trying to do is going to raise taxes on lower and middle income households. And it says tariffs are a regressive tax, meaning people with lower incomes will pay a larger share of their earnings. How many times have we heard this? In about every one of these videos I've done, we've read this same statement that people with lower incomes will pay a larger share of their earnings in taxes than high income people. Tariffs are essentially a consumption tax, and consumption as a share of income tends to fall as incomes rise. You need progressive taxation to fund essential public services supplied by our government from those who are most able to pay. In other words, the high earners, the high income segment. We don't have that right now. We have a very, very disparate gap between the billionaires and the middle and low income earners in this country. It says here, it also creates incentives that shape economic behavior in socially productive directions. The runaway growth of incomes for top earners are driven by rent-seeking practices, income gained from the exploitation of power that is unrelated to an individual's contribution to overall economic growth. And we see that with people like Elon Musk, who is trying to gain income but not give anything back in return to the U.S. government or to the U.S. people. He's just trying to steal our money, okay? And this disincentivizes such, let's go on down. Finally, tariffs lead to an efficient to efficiency losses as the potential benefits of international specialization are lost. As tariff levels have persisted for the past 70 years, these efficiency levels are quite small and often very exaggerated by economic commentary. But at tariff levels needed to replace the federal income tax, these efficiency levels would be high. Progressive income taxes also have some distortionary effects that might reduce economic output, but they also have countervailing influences that might boost economic output and welfare. So it could go either way here. But the whole basic point of this is that we're going to not be able to produce scientific, mathematical, engineering, and other highly specialized and highly educated products and services if we put these tariffs in place. And the only thing that Elon Musk said that it was correct, but yet it's a terrible thing. I don't agree with him because all through the 80s, I fought to keep contracts so I could keep working against H-1B visa holders who would work for a third what I could work for. And they would come over and from India and Pakistan and places like that and China, and they would come here, make as much money as they could make, send it home, and then when they were done, they would go home, and the money wouldn't even be spent in the United States that they sucked out of our economy, okay? But we didn't have the specialized people to do what they did. And because of the United States is being dumbed down by people like Elon Musk, they don't want smart people. Elon Musk wants dumb people. And 60% of the United States, and especially in the lower red states, 60% of the United States, the people there have a sixth grade or lower education as far as being able to understand what's going on around them, to write checks, to do math, to do, in general, retail transactions. In other words, there's no super engineers, no super computer programmers, no super scientists coming out of those populations. So we have to make it up somewhere. And as he said, we need the HB1 visa people to do it. And it's a shame. We should concentrate on our own individuals, get them into colleges, make college tuition cheaper or free so that we can create the scientists and engineers and mathematicians we need to fill those positions. But we're not doing it. This is JC, St. Louis's oldest living hippie, saying, "Pox some more, Jack. Keep on trucking."